In the annals of Azeroth, few names stir as much debate, passion, and fury as Sylvanas Windrunner. To some, she's the Banshee Queen, a ruthless, calculating monster who committed unthinkable atrocities. To others, she is a fallen hero, a tragic figure who made the hard choices no one else would. But to understand Sylvanas is to understand grief, survival, sacrifice, and the unbearable weight of certainty. This is not a story of redemption. It is not even a story of justification. It is a spotlight on the truth drawn from every canon thread Blizzard has woven, from games to novels to short stories. It is the story of a woman broken by death, forged in war, and defined by a singular question: what would you sacrifice to protect your people if the world itself had betrayed them? It's also essential to note two things. One, nearly all of Sylvanas' humanity, her inner struggles, her grief, her love, and sense of justice, are shown not in the game itself, but in the extended universe, short stories, and novels. In the games, her actions often appear brutal and uncontextualized, contributing to a widespread misinterpretation of her character. And two, Sylvanas rarely chose the situations and positions that defined her life. She never wanted to be the Ranger General of Silvermoon. She never wanted to be undead, let alone the leader of the Forsaken. Nor did she choose to become the Warchief of the Horde. Time and again, she was thrust into power either by circumstance, manipulation, or the absence of anyone strong enough to carry the burden. She stepped into those roles not because she sought glory, but because she refused to let others suffer alone. And only by exploring the full breadth of her story outside the game can we begin to grasp the depth of her choices. And that's what we will be doing here. Born into the noble Windrunner family of Quel'Thalas, Sylvanas was the middle of three sisters: Illyria, the bold explorer, and Verisa, the youngest and most idealistic. Unlike her siblings, Sylvanas remained close to her homeland, dedicating herself fully to its defense. Her prowess as a ranger was legendary, and she rose through the ranks of the Farstriders to become Ranger General of Silvermoon. But only after Illyria turned it down and convinced their mother, Larissa, to train Sylvanas for the position. In the novel Tides of Darkness, we see Sylvanas' discipline, pride, and unbreakable will as she leads the defense of Quel'Thalas against the orcs. She stands as a bulwark of elven strength, rooted in a profound sense of duty. Her identity is defined by service, an ideal that she never truly lets go of, even in undeath. Her people came first, always. During the Third War, the Death Knight Arthas Menethil invaded Quel'Thalas to use the Sunwell to resurrect Kel'Thuzad. Sylvanas fought valiantly, delaying him at every pass, but she was ultimately captured. Arthas, in a moment of pure sadism, refused to grant her the honor of a clean death. Instead, he ripped her soul from her body and bound her to undeath as a banshee, a weapon to turn on her homeland. In Rise of the Lich King and Warcraft 3, we witnessed this transformation. Sylvanas is not just killed, she is unmade. Her free will is stripped, her voice is stolen, her body becomes a mockery. It is not just death, it's violation. This moment becomes the axis upon which all her future decisions turn. When the Lich King's control weakened after Illidan's assault on the Frozen Throne, Sylvanas and other undead regained their free will, but they were no longer welcome among the living. Rejected by their families and hunted as monsters, they became the Forsaken. In Warcraft 3, the Frozen Throne, after she breaks free, she rallies the others who broke their bonds against the Scourge. This establishes her leadership amongst them. Then, out of a desire to protect and avenge them, she establishes a new kingdom in Lordaeron and names herself their queen. Not out of power, but necessity. Someone had to lead the broken. This is where the Edge of Night short story becomes vital. Sylvanas, after Arthas's final death, throws herself from Icecrown's citadel. She hopes for peace. Instead, she finds the Maw, a place of eternal torment. She believes she sees her people's fate if they die again. She witnessed firsthand that not all souls were moving on to peace, but some were being tormented. And while the Edge of Night only mentions her interactions and pact with the Nine, the Valkyr that are eventually bound to her, the Sylvanas novel expands on this journey to the Maw, and this is when she was approached by the Jailer. The Jailer tells Sylvanas several things with the overall intention of manipulating her and gaining her trust. He claims to understand her pain and sense of betrayal, referencing his own past as the arbiter of death, who was unjustly condemned. He insists he doesn't want her as a slave, but as an ally and an equal, someone capable and understanding of his goals. He proposes a pact to remake everything, the cycle of life and death, promising she will be by his side throughout the process. He offers to show her proof of the unjust system of the Shadowlands by having his Valkyr show her instances of souls being sent to disparate afterlives, even when they should be together. He promises she will realize the truth of his words and see injustices everywhere. And he provides her with 5 signs that will supposedly prove the truth of his claims. 1. A fiery darkness will return. 2. You must step out of the shadows and lead. 3. A blade will pierce the heart of the world. 4. And you shall hold the blood from that wound and sense its power. And 5. You shall topple a king and shatter the sky itself. The Jailer strategically plays on Sylvanas' existing sense of injustice and trauma, establishing a sense of shared pain to manipulate her into becoming his ally. He ultimately sends her back to Azeroth without an immediate agreement, confident she will eventually accept his offer when she witnesses the signs he foretold. Zovaal offered her a purpose: tear down the system so that no one else would suffer as she had. In exchange, she would gain power enough to reshape death itself. And Sylvanas, ever the pragmatist, ever concerned with fairness, agreed. But her agreement came with a condition. She would never again become the pawn she had been under Arthas. Her soul, still fractured from that trauma, demanded autonomy. She would be Zovaal's ally, but not his thrall. Every grim choice she makes from here stems from this pact. Every decision from that moment is to further her goal and the goals of the Jailer. And ultimately, she was told to speed things along, which is how we get to the Fourth War. When Vol'jin dies and names Sylvanas Warchief, guided by the whispers of the Loa Muzala, an agent of the Jailer, she is thrust into the Horde's highest position. Her time as Warchief during the battle for Azeroth is marked by strategic, brutal decisions, none more infamous than the burning of Teldrassil. To many, it was genocide. But the A Good War short story paints another picture. Sylvanas did not plan to burn the tree, but Saurfang's failure to kill Malfurion when he had him dead to rights planted a seed of hope. Sylvanas knew that the Alliance would interpret Malfurion's survival as a sign that their cause was just and blessed. So, in the Warbringer's Sylvanas cinematic, when Delaran's Summermoon says, "You cannot kill hope," Sylvanas replies, "Can't I?" and gives the order to burn it because she realizes it may be the only way to stamp out the seed of hope that Saurfang's failure planted. When they come for us, they will do so in pain, not glory. That may be our only chance at victory now, she says to Saurfang. Her war was not just military, it was psychological. By destroying hope, she believed she could shatter the Alliance's will to fight and force a swift surrender. But beneath that surface logic lay a darker truth. Sylvanas had made a pact with the Jailer, and she needed death, lots of it, to feed his plans. Teldrassil served both ends. The mass death would funnel souls into the Maw, destabilizing the Shadowlands, and a swift, demoralizing strike might end the war before it spiraled further out of control. To Sylvanas, this wasn't cruelty for cruelty's sake. It was a brutal calculation. The tree would burn, hope would die, and the war, she hoped, would end before it consumed even more lives. In her mind, it was a monstrous mercy. It's worth noting that the death toll in Teldrassil might not have been so great had Elune intervened. But she chose not to. Elune knowingly sent a large number of her followers, her children, to death. She did so because she saw the plight of the Shadowlands, because she knew that her sister was in trouble, and she thought that the influx of anima from the loss of so many lives would aid Ardenweald. And as we all know, this was a grievous error. In Shadowlands and the novel Sylvanas, her partnership with the jailer is revealed. She doesn't serve him out of blind allegiance. She believes the system of death, the arbiter, the unjust sorting of souls, is corrupt. She allies with the jailer to break it. Her motivation is consistent: protect her people from the horror she saw beyond death. The ends justify the means, and in doing so, she loses sight of the individuals, of lives, and the cost was staggering. The more she sacrificed, the more detached she became from the individuals she once swore to protect. And then came Anduin Wrynn. In the Maw, during his imprisonment, Anduin became her mirror, not through violence, but through grief, through stillness, through truth. As she watched him suffer, manipulated by the same force she had aligned with, something in her fractured soul began to stir. You can watch her breaking point. All shall serve. Zoval's words echo with bitter familiarity. It's what Arthas believed. It's what she was promised would never happen again. In that moment, Sylvanas realizes she has not freed anyone. She has helped forge a prison. And that's when she turns, not because she's forgiven, not because she was redeemed, because the path she chose, the one built on sacrifice and justified cruelty, was a lie. She joins the side of the players and heroes. She stands against Zoval. And when it's over, she doesn't run. The fragment of her soul that was stolen by Frostmourne and returned to her was remorseful for her actions. So when she submitted to judgment by Tyrande and was sentenced to return to the Maw to free every soul she helped damn, she accepted it as penance and atonement. And partially, I suspect, so that she could find Nathanos. But she accepted it because even if the cosmos would always be cruel, she would not be complicit in it again. Sylvanas' greatest flaw is not cruelty, it is certainty. Like Illidan Stormrage, she believes she sees the full picture and acts unflinchingly. But beneath that certainty is not ambition or arrogance. It is love and courage. She acts because she loves deeply, painfully. She fights because she cannot bear to see others suffer as she did. Every ruthless decision, every terrible command comes from the belief that she can endure what others shouldn't have to. That if someone must make the hard call, someone must carry the burden. It should be her. That is a pattern of hers that has remained consistent since her childhood. She believes that no one else is strong enough to do what must be done, that the cost of inaction is always greater than the cost of sacrifice, and so she sacrifices herself again and again. She leads armies into war. She breaks the natural order. She becomes the villain in other people's stories to protect those who have no voice in their own. She is not a hero. She's not a villain. She's a reckoning. A woman broken and reforged, a soul haunted by grief, driven by compassion, and armored in certainty. She saw the worst of life, the horror of death, and still chose to fight, not for vengeance, but for others, because she believed no one else would. And perhaps that is the truest form of heroism Azeroth has ever seen. A note about Nathanos. No story about Sylvanas Windrunner is complete without acknowledging the role of Nathanos Maris, her champion, her confidant, and the one person she chose to stand beside her, no matter the cost. The one person who felt the same. But I didn't have the time to cover all of that, so. If this spotlight helped you see Sylvanas in a new light, if you felt her pain, her purpose, her impossible choices, then you understand what so many have missed. Subscribe to Crit Milk for more deep dives into Warcraft's most complex characters. And as a bonus for staying until the end, this character spotlight has been brought to you by my wife being the president of the Sylvanas Windrunner fan club. So here's her really cool Sylvanas cosplay.